Hello everyone, Florian here and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. Today I'd like to talk about the gender pay gap and a recent article that was published in the New Zealand Herald which suggests men should work less to close the gender pay gap. Wow, they finally are admitting that the gender pay gap is the result of men working more. But no, they don't want to allow us to have freedom of choice or inequality in a working meritorious system. They all want full communism and socialism, so we're all bloody equal. Before we go into this article and some other things, let's hear what our Polly here has to say.
And how frustrating is it to go to work every day knowing that you are going to be paid less just because you're female?
I call bullshit on that right there. That's illegal. That is illegal. There are laws in Australia, there's laws in New South Wales, there's laws in America, New Zealand, there's laws in America, and UK, Canada, and all these countries that have something in common, Western countries. Wow. Where you can't discriminate based on someone's gender. So, boom, the first thing he says is incorrect. And I wonder how many of these girls think you're an idiot. I bet you they do. They're just there because of school.
So we think that women deserve better. We know that they deserve better.
What? They don't deserve to have freedom of choice?
But we do have this enormous other issue when it comes to gender equality. And the problem is that work that is traditionally done by women has long been undervalued and underpaid.
I wonder what type of work is he going to talk about here. I know we a funny thing here in Australia, not this gentleman, a Greens politician in Melbourne. He got in a lot of trouble because he was going on all about minimum wage, this and that. And then they found out he had a nanny from Europe taking care of his kids and he was paying them below minimum wage to be that wealthy.
Or not paid at all. When we are elected...
Not paid at all. Okay, so he's referring to the traditional roles where women would stay at home, raise the kids, do the housework, manage the household, which a lot of women these days seem to think is beneath them or too easy for them. And I'll just adjust that. And, they don't realize how much work it is or how hard it was. But they may not have been getting paid for it, but they have and had the control of most of the spending in the family. So, what's the point in getting paid if you spend all the money anyway?
We're going to make action on equal pay a priority because women deserve better.
See, this is just more political bullshit, isn't it? He's not really, action about equal pay. There is equal pay. There's already laws in place. He's just spinning a bit of fluff to get people excited and get him some votes to really say something. You think he'd have something more meaningful or substantial to say if he's a politician.
I announced shortly after I became co-leader that in government...
So he's not even the proper leader, he's only a co-leader. Why are we listening to you? Where's your master? I bet you're a pink-haired Femi.
The Green Party would make sure that our ministerial posts were gender balanced. I
haven't watched this. I have not watched this, but... so identity politics. They're choosing their politicians... I'd
like to announce today that in government we would ensure that the Minister for Women is a cabinet position always.
Why is there a Minister for Women? Why is there that? Why? There's no Minister for Men. I'm turning into MRA with all this shit. I need something normal.
Seeing the pay difference in black and white will mean women will know when they're being underpaid. And as a result, they can use that information to take an equal pay claim or just negotiate fair pay.
It's a market economy. There's a reason why you don't want your staff talking to each other about their pays, because it creates animosity, it creates unhappiness, and it means they can gang up on you as a boss. You want to get the most bang for your buck. That's called efficiency. But they're the Greens. I mean, what the hell would they know about that? I bet you none of them run a business.
Secondly, We will make the public sector chief executives responsible for achieving equal pay for.
So public sectors are they breaking the law over in NZ? Really? They're breaking the law. Wow.
All ministry staff. This needs to happen within our first term of government.
I bet you they already have it. I would put money on the table now that they could not find one position in the public service over there where they're breaking the law. There may be, and that's what they'll use. They'll say, oh, we're going to do this. They'll beating their chests and burning their bras and saying we're going to have equal pay for women, and then they'll pull that report out from the yes minister-esque bloody public servants and say, here you go, done. I guess you got to think about it. It's smart. It's an easy way for them to pretend like they're actually doing something, because pollies, they're just branding people, pretend they're doing stuff, and claim credit for other people's work. Maybe I'm a bit cynical.
The State Services Commission, who leads the public sector employment practice, has a 22% gender pay gap.
Oh my God, a 22% gender pay gap. I bet you there's a difference in hours worked. I've worked for the public service here in Australia. I did a very short stint. I lasted a year and a half, and then I started my own business, but I did it. And one thing I'd noticed working there, that there were some people you were ringing up to get drawings. Oh, no, she's only in 2 days a week. Oh, she's only in 3 days a week. They have flex time and all these other things, which is fantastic for you wanting to run a business or run a family, grow a family. Well, you got to run a family or have work-life balance. But it doesn't mean you should get paid the same amount as someone who's working 5 days a week. Or maybe someone who's working 4 days and you're working 5. What's that? 1/5. Oh, wait, that's 22%. Oh, look at this smug face. The thing that really scares me and worries me is that these people believe this shit. They believe there's a gender pay gap. They use this to come across as having a moral superiority complex and pushing their garbage onto everyone. This is only a minute long. It's not even what I'm talking about. I'm getting worked up.
And the Crown Law Office at the moment pays men 33% more than women.
For the same jobs. See, she's being disingenuous here. She's not sharing everything that she knows, and guaranteed she knows what's actually going on here, just to arc up the girls behind her and people around her and to, have some relevance.
That's not a pay gap, that's a chasm.
Oh, she's got a little plug here. So, well, that that got me more angry than I thought. So you can see here, that's the mentality that we're dealing with here. That these young girls here are being taught that they're going to get paid less than men right now. They have to do something. They have to join the Greens, yada, yada, yada. I would be embarrassed as a principal of these schools to have my students involved in this. You'd hope that they're teaching proper stuff at schooling. But, it's not about facts. It's not about reality. It's just about emotion. And this is getting emotion going. So here we go. Men should work fewer hours than women in order to close the pay gap. A report from the Institute, and we'll have a look at that, has found a pay gap in 80% of clearly defined occupations, with seniority being the critical factor. Okay, so if you're more senior, that's the major thing. Okay, that's what it is. It's seniority. And you can say, oh, but there's so many men at the top, but it takes a lot of bloody work and a lot of ass kissing to go to the top. And a lot of people don't want to do that. Not even men want to do that. But all companies in the UK with 250 employees were required to publish their gender pay gap for the first time in April, and showed 8 out of 10 companies paid women less on an average hourly rate than men. I bet it's because the men work more. Well, yeah, it is. That's what they're saying. That's the whole point of the article. Just think how much extra bullshit and paperwork and time this would take for a business. This is what all these little busybody politicians and do-gooders and social justice warriors don't realize. It's just the amount of garbage, fake work they create in the economy, particularly in politics, particularly in all these, procedures and every bloody committee that's created to create more legislation, more bullshit, more reporting. This report from every company more than 250, and that'll be a lot of companies in the UK, is of no value. It's not teaching us anything new, not adding anything to the body of knowledge of humanity, but it's costing a shitload of time and money. This points to seniority as a critical driver of the pay gap. For most occupations, men are in more senior, high-paying versions of the role than women. Okay. What this report tells us is that firms are a big part of the solution to fixing the gender pay gap, but they can't do it on their own. The IPPR is calling on employers and the government to commit to fixing the gender pay gap issue, and believe they should strongly consider their proposal for men to work fewer hours. I recently did a Uber ride. I drive Uber in mornings and nighttime, and I had some blokes I took to the Valley, the nightclub district here in the city, and they had a young girl there with them that was studying from overseas, and she was from France, and I was teasing her that, you Frenchies, you only work like 30 hours a week. And she knew what I was referring to. There was a case of a bakery where they worked more than the required hours that they were allowed. So they were fined. The guys were all shocked that they actually can have places where you can get fined for opening your business too long. And this wasn't like opening all throughout the night. It's just a few hours. It's a little bakery. The solutions also have to come from individuals and from the government. In short, men need to work fewer hours and women need to work more. Okay, well, who cares? That's to do with individual choice. What you're saying here is you want to direct and influence individual choice to artificially create a state of equality. They want to take away people's individual choice, freedom, and agency, and they want to just have an equal outcome, not equal opportunity. It just seems ludicrous to me that people can push this forward because it's just limiting people's rights, limiting people's agency. The IPPR, okay, there's an extra P there, suggests women face motherhood penalties with pay gaps dramatically increasing after women take time out to have children. Okay. The way they frame that, sure, it's going to reduce your pay, but you're getting kids. Not everyone is going to have a brilliant career. Not everyone is going to leave a legacy in, organizing a function or, producing some work. Some people are going to have children. And you look at Peterson's message to young women. They're putting it off more and more and more. There's a big chunk of your life, big half of your life, when you want to have your kids, when you want to have your grandkids, where you want to enjoy those people. So, I honestly think to address the issues of the challenges of raising children and work, that we need to get childcare out of the hands of the government, and it needs to be privatized. Here in Australia, we've got fringe benefit tax. What would be really smart, and I'll do a video on this, is if the government would say, okay, if you hire a woman, you can include childcare, private payment for it as part of their salary package, a nanny that'll come to your house 2 days a week to help you work from home, all these things that you could include in a package to really attract the talent and to be flexible, not having to go to a childcare, drop the kid off, go to work, leave early to pick him up, because if you don't, it's just inflexible, simple solutions when private industry could do it much better. But then that would piss off all the people who have got money invested in that sector. According to research from the Institute of Fiscal Studies undertaken by Joseph Rowntree Foundation, by the time a first child reaches 20, mothers earn almost a third less per hour on average than similarly educated fathers. Exactly. Do you know why? Fathers don't have a choice. When you have children, as a dad, you can't go, I'll just stay home and raise them. Not nowadays. Well, okay, you can if you have a woman that works, but most of the time, no. Okay, most people, you can't. You have to work. You have to provide for your family. Because particularly for that time where 6 months, when your wife is taking care of the child, those very early formative times, particularly if they're breastfeeding, they need to be around the kid. And, you could argue, we need childcare, this, but none of that's free. That's all coming from tax. So you're paying for it in the end. To combat this, the IPPR believes employers and men need to change their work habits, proposing that fathers become more flexible during parenthood and more senior roles need to be offered as a job share. I don't know what a job share is. I don't know how that could work. Is that like 2 part-time jobs? Do you actually share the document you're working on with another person? In architecture, we are very collaborative. Many people come together to work on something. But I did this. I had about 3 or 4 architecture students working for me, and every time there was a handover, like they'd be working on a project and one would take over from the other, you would lose efficiency, you would lose productivity, and it would not be cost effective. We had to stop doing that. It was actually sending us backwards because we just weren't getting the efficiencies that we needed to do. I've just noticed something on my screen there, and I'll fix. You gotta bear with me. This is just annoying the hell out of me. There we go. I'll fix that. Boom. You didn't even notice that. So, yeah, okay, that sounds good, but I think I'd like to see some actual research into this job sharing thing. In 2017, the pay disparity between men and women in New Zealand sat at 12% and has been stagnant in the past 10 years. Okay. That's fine. People are making choices. People have freedom in New Zealand. That's great. That's great. Men in New Zealand earn an average 68 cents more than women for every hour work. Now, okay, so they're framing it as a negative, but it is just necessary inequality in a society where you have merit-based outcomes and you have freedom of choice. That's it. That's all it is. So let's have a look at the little paper here now. I had a look at the paper, and honestly, it's all summed up right here. The UK has a gender pay gap within industries, within occupations, and within organisations. Women tend to earn less per hour than men. A small proportion of this gap may be the result of unequal pay for the same work in a firm, which is illegal. Okay, so a small proportion. And it's illegal. So they've dealt with it. So, okay, good. They need to hunt down those people that are breaking the law. They need to publicly let people know that this is illegal. It's discrimination based on gender. So on the grounds of gender and other protected characteristics. Okay, so that means, they're discriminating. They're actually discriminating based on protected status, and that's illegal. But the majority is a consequence of the sort of jobs that women do, their level of seniority, and the impact of having children on their career choice and progression. It's right there. What's wrong with that? It's called living life. I think a lot of these people are too young to realize, life, you have to make choices. If you have children, if it's a husband and wife that get together, parents get together, you got to work together to make it work, and you got to sacrifice. That's called life, guys. That's called growing up. Here from the report, they have a 60-second summary, and I thought this was quite good. So we'll just jump into the second paragraph. New firm-level data published in April 2018 to meet new government reporting requirements. Suggests that's just what you need, more government reporting. Suggests that most large employers have a gender pay gap, although organizations' pay gaps tend to be smaller than the pay gap for the industry in which they operate. Closing the gender pay gap within organizations would not therefore eliminate the economy-wide pay gap altogether, but employers do have an important part to play and should make every effort to ensure that they pay progression and flexible working policies help both men and women to combine work and caring commitments and do not unconsciously bias the balance of those who progress and those who doesn't. So, I'll do a video on my solution here for childcare, a creche inside the office, drop the kids off, work, go back. It is possible for an employer to have a larger gender pay gap and be working hard to promote gender equality. It is also possible for an employer to have a small pay gap and pay women and men poorly. I like that one. So we can all have a small pay gap, but all be paid shit. That's probably what will happen. Honestly, if they mandate you can't have a pay gap, you'll start seeing businesses using it as an excuse. So, sorry, I can't give you a pay rise because it would mean I'd have to increase the pay of 7 other people, and that could be economically unviable. That is what will happen. Business owners will use it to their advantage. They don't understand what they do. And then what they'll do is they'll start and they'll just take over the businesses, and we'll have a complete fascist, feminist, supremacist state. We would encourage more firms to publish short, accessible narrative reports alongside their pay gap results in the future. Oh, well, they want more now. They want more. So essentially, it's just more paperwork for the sake of it. Now, there's one example I really like that I'm going to share with you, and this has come out a while ago. It was the gender earnings gap in the gig economy, evidence from over 1 million rideshare drivers. And this is because I do ride sharing, and I love it. It's great fun. You meet lots of interesting people. Haven't had too many cause problems. I did have a few Gold Coast coke skanks the other night, but, you know, that's just how you go about it. They were, you know, nearing the end of their sexual market value, but that's another topic. The growth of the gig economy generates worker flexibility that some have speculated will favour women. Ooh, I wonder who have. We explore one facet of the gig economy by examining labour supply choices and earnings among more than 1 million rideshare drivers on Uber in the US. Perhaps most surprisingly, we find that there's a roughly 7% gender earnings gap among drivers. The uniqueness of our data, knowing exactly the production and compensation factors, permits us to completely unpack the underlying determinants of the gender earnings gap. We find that the entire gender gap is caused by 3 factors. Wait for it. Experience on the platform, learning by doing, preference over when, where to work, and preference for driving speed. This suggests that as the gig economy grows and brings more flexibility in employment, women's relatively high opportunity cost of non-paid work time and gender-based preference decisions can perpetuate a gender earnings gap, even in the absence of discrimination. I like how they tacked that on there. So they're saying their high opportunity cost for non-paid work time, okay, and the gender-based preference differences. Okay, so because women have to care and they can't give up time, which I understand, but with the gig economy, you can do it whenever you want. You know, you can have your partner come back, take care of the kids, go do a bit of driving at night when they're asleep. That's what I usually do. I'll drive for a few hours at night time, put a podcast on and listen to it. They're not mentioning the 3 things here, which is learning by doing, so the men are better at it. You know, the men will go to do more airport runs, and their male emotion or personality lends itself to driving faster, so they're more efficient and more dangerous. So, yeah, I think that's quite interesting, and I'll just go through. I'll link to the article if you'd like to read the whole thing. But the abstract clearly shows that even in Uber, where you cannot make up any grounds that there's any form of discrimination, there's still a 7% gap between men and women. So, you know, a Greens friend here, yeah, mate, good luck. And I thought that was quite interesting. I you know, there's this constant push to of you know, gender gap, wage gap. How can anyone actually think it exists anymore? I don't understand. I do not understand how they can see it. It has to be motivated for purely political purposes to try and get more control. You know, these people want to take away our freedoms. They want to take away our freedom of speech. They want to control our businesses. They want to regulate the hell out of us. They just want to take away our freedoms. And it is dangerous. Thank you all very much. Have a nice evening. If you'd like to see more of my work, I'll put some stuff over here and subscribe button up here. Have a lovely day. See ya.